Welcome back. Welcome back. Right now, business and political leaders from all over the world are meeting at the World Economic Forum in Davos. And this year, of course, everyone's minds are on the failing global economy. The latest forecast saying that 2009 could be its worst year since the Second World War and so on. Is it really going to be that bad? Well, to be finding out, we're going to be joined now from Davos by the British advertising mogul. He could have had a career as a professional cricketer, Sir Martin Sorrell. Martin,
definitely not as a professional cricketer, David.
Well, I thought you'd like that introduction. But the November the 28th in the Times, you said, writing there, you said that you'd been at a conference in Washington where half of the people had said that there would be a recovery in 2010 and the other half had voted 2011. Now, how would the people there vote if you did that same poll there, do you think, in Davos a couple of months later?
Well, I did something with CNN this morning. I'm sorry to mention them, but when I looked at the chart, we were each asked to give our view on when there would be a recovery. I'm for 2010 in the real world, and most of the people in that survey, you had to chalk up your prediction, were at 2010. Some were even earlier at the back end of 2009 and into 2010, but there was nobody, and they probably had about 30 people, nobody in 2011. So in a way, I think probably that sample in Washington, which was basically US executives, the sample here are more global, that sample in Washington was much gloomier.
So that overall is pretty optimistic compared with what people might have feared, that the fact that people are not going much into 2011. Is that good news?
Yes, I mean, there are some things. Well, I think that's good news. I mean, I hate to be the bearer of good news because that's not what many people want to hear. But, you know, you do get shocks. For example, today we got received figures from Japan. Industrial production down, I think it was 9.8% December to December. Korean industrial production, I think, down by 18% over the last few months. And as a result, Asian markets, certainly when I got up this morning, were off 3 or 4%. Toyota forecasting its first loss ever. So there is a lot of gloomy news around, and it shakes confidence, and you see the markets moving upwards for a few days, and then bang, the confidence gets taken out, and you have a relapse. So a lot of volatility. We've got the stimulus package coming through in America. I mean, just interestingly, in Washington at the end of November, Larry Summers was talking about $500 billion, and we've now got a package of around $850 billion, and almost getting up in towards $1 trillion. So the fiscal stimulus that we're seeing around the world is colossal. And to put it in perspective, the world's economy, I think, is around 32 trillion, 33 trillion in terms of GNP. America is 14. The sort of stimuli that we're seeing are very, very significant in the context of those overall economies. So we're getting big.
Do you think, Martin, do you think that the Obama stimulus will be successful?
Well, I think, David, with the TARP 1 and TARP 2, when we were in Washington at the end of November, we totaled up, there was $8 trillion of stimulus at that stage. I think we must be, I think Nouriel Roubini said something like 17 or 18 trillion. I mean, the numbers are colossal. And I think the answer to your question is, given those stimuli, it must happen that we will get the necessary liquidity, banks lending, and it moving ahead, and the credit markets easing, and rates, spreads, not rates, but spreads coming down. The question in my mind, David, is not so much that, and I did raise this at the British lunch. I think the more troubling thing, in a way, or not in a way, I think the more troubling thing is, what do our kids and grandkids do when they're saddled with debts that have been run up in rebuilding the financial services sector, in aiding, say, the auto sector and other sectors? And I think that really is the problem. Do we inflate our way out of it, have high interest rates and inflation as a result, or do we save our way out of it, cut back government spending, and wear a hair shirt for a very significant period of time? In a way, what's got to happen is the West have got to learn to save again, and the East have got to learn to spend, because the capital is being accumulated in places like China and Brazil, and to a lesser extent India, and then eventually Russia, because although Russia is under pressure at the moment with the fall in the oil price will probably rise, and Russia will become very powerful again. And you see from Mr. Putin's comments here in Davos, he sees Russia as a major player, and he wants partners and not to be treated as an emerging market. Russia in many ways has emerged and will emerge even stronger, I think, even from this crisis.
Thank you very much indeed, Martin, for joining us. And now from Switzerland to Thailand, and to a crime that goes back to ancient Rome. Lese majeste, injury to the majesty. This week, for a second time in a couple of months, the London-based international magazine, The Economist, was not distributed in Thailand. The decision by its Thai distributor was made amid concerns over the magazine's coverage of the country's monarchy. Last week's issue, for instance, contained a story about an aspiring Australian novelist who had been jailed for 3 years for defaming the Thai monarchy, even though the offending book only sold either 6 or 7 copies in Thailand. Joining me now is the Asia editor of The Economist, Simon Long. Simon, welcome. What was it, in fact, that they objected to in the book that you reported?
In the book, I believe, I haven't actually read it, as very few people have, but I believe there was one paragraph referring to an unnamed crown prince, which was taken as being a depiction of the life of the real crown prince, who is, of course, the heir apparent, who has had, in Thai gossip, a fairly scandalous life. Whether that's true or not, we don't know, but the writing of it in this novel was taken as being a reference to him and was regarded as improper, and for that, this man, Mr. Nicolaides, was sentenced to 3 years in jail for lese majeste, as you say.
And do you think he'll serve that sort of term for it?
I would have thought it most likely that he will be pardoned. The Australian government has asked for pardon on his behalf. The King himself has, in 2005, I think, said that the monarchy itself should not be above criticism. So one would expect and hope that he would be pardoned.
He would be pardoned. And what about this issue of lese majeste and so on? I mean, have you encountered that before anywhere? Or is it unique to Thailand?
No, there are laws elsewhere, I believe, and I believe there have actually been convictions in some European countries, Holland and Spain, but nothing of this sort of severity. And Thailand is probably the only country in the world where the law is being more actively enforced. And indeed, the present government has talked of toughening it up, and we're seeing curbs on websites which are deemed to defame the monarchy. We're seeing, as you've said, problems in our own distribution. And so it is becoming a real issue in Thai politics.
And you're going to campaign on this issue, are you? When you get an issue, you stick to it, don't you?
Well, we have made our point on it. As it comes up, we will report it, and if there comes a time when we feel a need to editorialise about it again, we will. But we have said we think these laws are wrong, that they're not suitable for Thailand, and indeed are very dangerous for Thailand at a time when the role of the monarchy needs to be discussed, because the king, who is much loved and much respected, is 81.
And given that what happened to the novelist, and you reported this story, obviously, did your story technically offend against the laws of Thailand, do you think?
I don't know. We haven't tested that. I mean, I think this story was widely reported in a lot of other outlets, and I think maybe the prominence given to us and our distributors' worries about it date back to our having given a fuller account of the lese majeste situation back in December. And so I think we were, in this case, we weren't out of line with the rest of the media. This was a case which drew an enormous amount of attention around the world, as one would expect. It's very unusual for somebody to be locked up for 3 years for an offence like this.
Absolutely. I mean, it's extraordinary in that sense. And I mean, do you think that this will have any effect on Thailand? I mean, it seems rather bad luck that Thailand, which is a democracy and so on, is sort of at the centre of this particular issue and is a villain, temporary villain in the eyes of the Economist, when there are lots of worse regimes around the world.
Well, in this case, the reason why we felt the need to go for this issue is if you look back to the last autumn and last December in particular, you had Thailand's major airports shut. You had the threat of violence on the streets. You had some actual violence on the streets. And that was done in the name of the king. It was a public mob citing the king's name to attack an elected government. Now, one may not approve of that elected government or its policies, but it did have an undoubted electoral mandate. The royal family failed to distance themselves from this mob. Indeed, the Queen attended the funeral of one of the protesters, one of their members who died, without going to funerals of people on the other side who died. So the perception that there was the tacit support of the monarchy for this mob was quite strong. And that was why we felt the need to address it, because it was a real issue in Thai politics.
And would you recommend them to leave The Economist on the plane?
I don't think anybody is going to get in trouble for having a copy of that. The risk would be to the distributor, who might be seen as spreading a journal which broke the law. I don't think individual readers of ours are in any risk at all.
Oh, this is reassuring news for your readers who are watching. Our thanks to Simon Long. The youngest member of America's other pop star family, Jimmy Osmond, will be with me after the news headlines.